Hi there, class. Let's talk about our unit on forces and structures. Now, I will be handing out a homework package or a science booklet specifically about forces and structures. So, I want you to fill out the school year, your name, last name, first name, your homeroom, and your teacher. Hopefully, you still know my name and the term. Okay? So, but I want us to talk first things first about what we have here as the structures. Okay, let's talk structures. So, what do we have here? So, generally, we can classify structures as manufactured. That means it's made by people, right? Or they can be natural, meaning not made by people. Now, all manufactured structures have a purpose or function. To perform this main job, every part of the structure must resist forces that can change its shape or size. Structures must also support the weight carried by it, known as the load. Now, structures can also be classified based on how they are built. There are three basic designs: one, mass; two, frame; and the third one, shell structures. Now, each design uses a particular type of construction with its own set of advantages and disadvantages. Now, for the first one, mass structures. These are structures that are built by piling materials up, one on top of the other. Natural structures like beaver dams and quincies are mass structures. Now, an excellent example of a mass structure, a man made structure, would be the Stonehenge in England. Now, mass structures. I mentioned earlier beaver dams, okay? So, this is how it looks like. And usually with beaver dams, it says here beaver dams or beaver impoundments are dams built by beavers to provide ponds as protection against predators such as coyotes, wolves, and bears, and to provide easy access to food during winter. Now, how about quincies, right? They kind of look like igloos, so maybe that's what's in your mind right now. But then let's have some contrasts or differences between the two. So, a quincy is a Canadian snow shelter that is made from a large pile of loose snow. This is in contrast with an igloo. An igloo, it says here, would be made up or built from blocks of hard snow. But essentially, excuse, um, it provides a shelter, right? And usually there is that hollow part where one could hide or just take cover from the elements of the weather, right? So that's we have for mass structures. Now, Hadrian's Wall is also a familiar mass structure. So the Hadrian's Wall, again in UK, it is known also as a Roman wall, Pix wall, or uh, Valium Hadrian in Latin. It's a former defensive fortification of the Roman province of Britannia. Okay, so it acts as a barrier to any the oncoming, let's say, enemies maybe of the province or of the place, as the case may be. Now, what else do we have here? So that this would be on the mass structures. Now, I mentioned earlier Stonehenge. So I was fortunate enough to see Stonehenge. So as you can see from the background here, they look like what just big piles of stones put together. But essentially, when you try and take a good look at them, it says here they're made of stones, larger stones called sarsen stones, and the smaller ones called blue stones. And interestingly, did you know that if you stand in just the right place inside the Stonehenge monument on the day of the northern summer solstice, facing northeast through the entrance towards a rough hewn, this one, stone outside the circle, you will see the sun rise above the hill stone, right? And I have here a short clip, so let me just tone down the volume there so that you get to see what I have here. So specifically in Wiltshire, England, right? So you can discover the history of the place and how people during the olden times can kind of build all of these structures. And it's really a big tourist attraction. But one might get disappointed. Oh, just simply a large pile of stones, right? But it always has a history behind it. So it's nice to just discover that in one's travel. Now, another example of a mass structure, and there's so many across the world, this would be the Parthenon in Greece, right? So, and it really gets fascinating because towards nighttime it gets illuminated as well. So here it says it's a former temple built in honor of uh, Athena, right? The princess or the goddess Athena. So it's really just a wonderful tourist attraction in Athens, Greece. So what else do we have here? So the Lion Monument in Switzerland, I think this is one of my favorites too. It's actually in Lucerne, and usually the as you can see from the stone carving here of a dying lion, right? So actually, it commemorates the Swiss guards who were massacred in 1792 during the French Revolution. Other mass structures that you might be familiar with would be the Great Wall of China, right? So you can really scale up through the heights there of the wall, and it's just fascinating to just see how people just really built the walls with their own hands, right? So it actually acts as a border, right? Or even as a protection against various nomadic groups from, it says here, from the Eurasian steppe, right? So that's for the Great Wall of China here. So all of this are maybe familiar or classic examples of mass structures. Now, not only made of stones, but it can also made from really just polished granite stones, like the Little Mermaid. So where's the Little Mermaid? It is in right Copenhagen, Denmark. So they built this along the riverbanks, and one might be disappointed because you might think it's a very big sculpture, but it is not. But it's a wonderful rock statue by the waterside. Now, another thing would be the Mayan temples in Mexico. So here, there's also the Mayan temple in Peru. I've yet to visit that, but it's kind of the same, right? So it says here, right in the Yucatan Peninsula, it's one of the most visited archaeological sites in Mexico, Chichen Itza. When many think Mayan pyramids in Mexico, the dominating El Castillo, a 30-meter tail step pyramid comes to mind. Chichen Itza is one of the Mexican ruins near Cancun. So it really makes an easy day trip. So if ever you're in Mexico, people just visit this Mayan temple in Mexico or in Mexico. Now, what else? Of course, there's the Berlin Wall in Germany, right? So the Berlin Wall was a guarded concrete barrier that physically and ideologically divided Berlin from 1961 to 1989. And then, of course, it happened. The barrier was really just demolished, and freedom and democracy was really just experienced by the Germans. So, what else? So, these are classic examples of mass structures. So it's either they're made of concrete stones, bricks, or even some polished stones. So, or even made up of pure uh, metals like gold, for instance, right? So let's see what we have here next. So, yes, there's also the Golden Buddha, right, in Thailand, right? So, or if you are ever in the Warsaw Old Town Square in Poland, you get to see this mermaid-like warrior kind of defending the city from any invaders. And again, in Germany, a very famous statue. If you go on a river cruise, you get to see Lorelei. So it's a statue, really. And let's see what I have here. So it's in the Rhine Valley. So 16 feet, kind of tall, right? So impressive, right? So what else do we have here? So the Sibelius Monument. And this is in, any idea, people? Yes, so this is in Helsinki. So the capital of Finland, right? So when you get to the place, think of organ pipes that can play wonderful music. When you are inside this kind of long standing organ pipes, you get to hear the echo of your voice or even the echo of your whisper. And it has quite a melodic ring to it. So it's kind of like a wonderful experience. So again, these are all examples of mass structures. Now, what's the one advantage of a mass structure? What do you think? This is it. They have a lot of strength and stability. Now, obvious disadvantage would be what? They are very heavy and very expensive to build. Now, the second type of structure would be frame structures. So, most human dwellings and office buildings are frame structures. They have a skeleton of very strong materials which support the weight of the roof and covering materials. Most of the inside of the building is empty space, and common examples of frame structures would be snowshoes, tents, and skeletons. Okay, so remember, you can see a skeleton in the frame structures, and these are common examples. Now, advantage, not a lot of wasted space, not as heavy as a mass structure. And disadvantage would be not as strong and stable as a mass structure. Now, it says further here, it's the most common choice of structures, the frame structures, because they are composed of long elements joined to each other at the ends. They're strong. So there are supports on the sides, right? Advantages, easy to build, inexpensive and lightweight. Disadvantages, not good for very big loads or strong impacts. So a chair or even the desk that you're writing on can be considered as frame structures, right? What are other examples of frame structures. So snowshoes, right? Now, have you ever tried wearing one? So it says here, a snowshoe is a footwear for walking over snow. Obviously, the snowshoes work by distributing the weight of the person over a large area so that the person's foot does not sink completely into the snow, right? So remember that. Example of a frame object would be a frame structure would be that of a snowshoe. Now, tents obviously are examples of frame structures, or even leaves or a leaf, for instance. In a leaf, or with any leaf for that matter, you get to see what the midrib. It's the midrib, this one, that kind of provides the skeleton for the frame structure, right? Or the entire blade would provide the skeleton for the leaf or the leaves. That what makes it a frame structure, right? So, or a skeleton, our own skeleton is a good example of a frame structure. Now, other examples, as was mentioned earlier, would be buildings, right? So here we have the atomic bomb dome in Japan. So again, I was fortunate to be part of the ASEAN Japan exchange program before. I get to stay with my foster parents in Japan, and I got to teach grade 7 students and with elementary students or even high school. So it is a mandatory field trip to go and visit the epicenter of the atomic bombing in Hiroshima. So this is in Hiroshima, and up to this date, one could still see the ruins of the center of the bombing. So it was here where the A bomb, the atomic bomb, was dropped, and it's good that it withstood the times, the years now, and it's always a living testimony to the horrors of biological warfare. And yeah, that's one example. In Japan, also, we have the Kinkakuji Temple, or what they call as the Golden Pavilion. So you could just see that the roof and all the walls are made really of gold sheets, right? So wonderful sight to see, and if you're there, then so much the better. Now, another example of a frame structure, if you ever get to Paris, right? So Louvre, the Louvre Pyramid in Paris. So here, um, it's a large glass and metal pyramid designed by a Chinese American architect, right? And it provides really a very good backdrop the um, to the place. Now, so again, these are all examples of one, yes, frame structures. And usually with frame structures, you get to see layers and layers of floors, right? So that kind of just give you an idea that it is a frame structure. Now, the third one, shell structures. These structures are strong and hollow, meaning empty space inside. They keep their shape without a frame or solid mass of material inside. Simple objects like balloons and bottles are examples of shell structures. An egg is another example of a shell structure. The design of the shell spreads the weight through the whole structure. No advantage. Doesn't use as much building material as mass or frame structure, and the disadvantage would be one tiny weakness can cause the whole structure to fail. Just imagine an egg. If You prick just one small side. What happens? The whole thing collapses. Now, in nature, also common fruits like here the pistachio nuts, right? Um, would have a shell structure. Eggs, what else? Honeycombs, right? Or even hot air balloons here are all examples of shell structures. Bottles also. Now, many buildings would also have shell structures, like commonly the rooftop. If one would be in Santorini, Greece, many of the houses there or dwellings or even buildings only consist of two colors, either both white and blue only. And where is Santorini, Greece? So Santorini is one of the Cyclades Islands in the Aegean Sea. It was devastated by a volcanic eruption, forever shaping its rugged landscape. So it's again one of those popular tourist spots of the world, Santorini. Now, if one gets to London again, in Greenwich, we have what we call as the Royal Conservatory. Okay, so the Royal Conservatory in Greenwich, right, is an observatory situated on a hill, and usually one might ask, what is the significance? What's the importance of this one? Now, since the late 19th century, it is the historic source of the prime meridian of the world. In your social studies class, you've talked about latitude, longitude, right? So longitude 0 degrees, 0 minutes, 0 seconds would be at this spot. So the world prime meridian marks the divide between the eastern and western hemispheres. So it's also a wonderful place to visit. Now, of course, the Arc of Triumph in Paris, right? So notice we're looking at the dome shape or the hemisphere shape or the shell shape part of a structure or a building. Here, this could be considered as the shell part of this structure. The Arc of Triumph, or Arc de Triomphe, as they say it in French, is one of the most famous monuments in Paris after Eiffel Tower, standing at the western end of the Champs-Élysées at the center of Place Charles de Gaulle, right? And if you walk further, you get to see the famous uh, landmark or cornerstone of Louis Vuitton or the LV place where many of the tourists would also go. It's also a nice place to visit and shop. And most of the stopovers in Europe, I've noticed they all have this shell-shaped rooftop. So this makes it really that shell structure part of the building. So here, I want you now to get a loose leaf out and do this. So let's have some challenge, right? Name the structure and its location, or you could listen to this recorded video for the answers. You can pause the video so you could write it down, then surf the net to get some information about it. Then ask yourself, is it mass, frame, shell, and why? So I have, I think here, 10 structures for you to give the name, the location, and then you tell me what part would be considered mass, frame, or shell, right? So here, for instance, this is a familiar structure. If you get to this place, everyone seems to be doing this iconic pose. We're kind of maybe thinking it would prevent the structure from falling down, right? So what's this? You're right. This is the Leaning Tower of Pisa, right? So it says here, the Leaning Tower of Pisa, or simply the Tower of Pisa, is the campanile or freestanding bell tower of the Cathedral of the Italian city of Pisa, known worldwide for its nearly 4-degree lean, the result of an unstable foundation. Okay, and of course, somewhere in South Dakota, this is also. Um, oh, by the way, what kind of structure is this? Mass, frame, shell, and why? It can be a combination of the three later on. I'm going to just share with you the answer for this number one. But let's go to number two. I said somewhere in South Dakota. So what could this be? All the president's men are in there, right? It's the Mount Rushmore National Memorial. So here, it says here, Mount Rushmore National Memorial is a massive sculpture carved into Mount Rushmore in the Black Hills region of South Dakota. So, must be mass structure, right? And you are correct in there. And you get to see the granite faces of 4 U.S. presidents: George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Theodore Roosevelt, and Abe Lincoln or Abraham Lincoln. So I'm giving you now clues to the answers, right? Just a little bit. Now, how about this one? Are you familiar with this? No, where is Miss Fowler in this time? So this is in Turkey, Ephesus, Turkey. So that structure is called the Celsus Library, right? So the Library of Celsus is an ancient Roman building in Ephesus, Anatolia, now part of Seljuk, Turkey, right? So, and what was it used for? So, this is used to store scrolls, documents, not books, scrolls. They can either be in ancient paper, on ancient paper, or the writings can be on slabs of stone, right? So, very interesting. Now, the fourth one, you might think, oh, this must be Christ Redeemer of Brazil. No, it's not. It's in my hometown in the Philippines, and it's called Monasterio, Monasterio de Tarlac. So interesting, and it's a growing popular tourist destination. So, so Miss Fowler lives in this part of the world. Of course, this is an iconic tower. I always refer to this as my sexy A. This is what? Yes, you're right. This is the Eiffel Tower, right? In Paris, right? Now, on the hour, every hour, starting at 6, you get to see it illuminated. And for me, it's nice to just view it from a distance, especially if you take the Seine River cruise, and you'll just be able to witness the majestic beauty of the Eiffel Tower. So let me just click on this. So even from, so just imagine if you are on this river cruise, all tourists are just kind of fishing up their cameras and clicking on it, right? So I acted like the typical tourist here, like I'm just so excited. I've seen it a number of times, and it never fails to just amaze me. I always love going back to Paris, if only just to see it illuminated at nighttime. So, a wonderful, what kind of structure thing? Frame, right? So, notice the alternating slots to kind of give that support. So, anything that provides support to a central structure is basically called a frame structure, right? So, wonderful frame structure that we have here. Now, Hmm. How about this? It seems like Miss F is hugging a big granite egg, right? So where is this? So this is actually what tourists coined as, they've given a name to it, like they say it's the Black Egg Sculpture at the City Hall of London. So if you are in London, very close to the Tower of London, walk a few steps to the right of the tower, you get to see the city hall, and in front of it, or kind of in front of it, would be this black egg sculpture. So it's, I would like to think it's solid, right? And if something is solid, it makes it what? You're right, a mass structure. And of course, this one of my favorite places in the world. So it's the Church of the Savior on Blood, or Savior on the Spilled Blood. This is in St. Petersburg, Russia. So again, one of my favorite places in the world. And you might ask, why is it called Church of the Spilled Blood? Oh, well, it was the site of the political assassination of Emperor Alexander in 1881. So they named it in his honor, the site, and built this church, which they call Church of the Savior on Blood. So if you talk about the structures, I think its topmost part, what would struck you would be the colorful shell-like structures, right? So it is a shell structure. So that's number 7, right? And then number 8, again, what could it be? So it's so number 8 would be this, the Golden Gate Bridge. And just looking at the underside of the bridge, it makes it what? Mass, frame, or shell? It would be frame because it provides support, right? You have crisscrossing metallic supports to the bridge. So this is where it is in San Francisco Bay in the US. So you might ask yourself, how did Miss F did a video of the underside? Of course, I was on a river cruise. I always love river cruises. That gives me the chance to really just see the underneath of the bridge. But of course, this is the iconic look of the Golden Gate Bridge. It's not really golden, as you can see from here. It's now brick red in color, but it always is an iconic tourist spot or attraction. So that's for number 8. Now, number 9, what could it be? So this is what we call as El Arco, right? And it is in Cabo San Lucas, right? And it says here the Arc of Cabo San Lucas is a distinctive rock formation. So again, mass shell or frame? Definitely it is. Yes, it's mass structure. So it's a distinctive rock formation at the southern tip of Cabo San Lucas, which is itself the extreme southern end of Mexico's Baja California Peninsula. The arc is locally known as El Arco. It is here that the Pacific Ocean becomes the Gulf of California. Again, a fantastic tourist destination. And of course, the last number would be this, the Royal Conservatory of in Greenwich. And I think I mentioned it. So what makes it really a shell structure? It would be this part. So, of course, the various layers here can, or various floors can also uh, be identified or be classified as frame structures. Okay, so there you go, people. So 10 structures for you to do on that loose leaf. So the first one is done for you as a guide. So for each of the 10 structures that I've mentioned, I want you to name the structure, right? Because that's the expectation. So name the structure. So here in this case, I would say Leaning Tower of Pisa. Mention the location. So this is something that you can Google on or research. It's in Pisa, Tuscany, Italy, and a little bit of information about the structure. So I said here, the Leaning Tower of Pisa, or simply the Tower of Pisa, is the campanile or freestanding bell tower of the Cathedral of the Italian city of Pisa, known worldwide for its nearly 4-degree lean, the result of an unstable foundation. Then I ask you next, ask yourself, is it mass, frame, or shell? It can be a combination of two or more, or two or all, right? Here, what makes it mass? Mass because of the brick cemented walls of the tower. Frame because there are layers or different floors that one could go up to. And shell because the topmost part is dome-like in shape. So this is what is expected to do for this loose leaf assignment, right? So it's not going to be on Google Classroom. It would be on a loose leaf. So you can again go back to this recorded video and finish this loose leaf assignment. Okay. Now, there is also a secondary assignment to this, but this is now going to be on a set of Google Slides, and this would now be part two. But for now, I think it's best that I stop here so that you can concentrate on the structures part one. So note taking, once you have your booklets with you, there is a particular page where you can just take notes and of course do the loose leaf activity. Okay, that's it for now, class. Ciao for now.